Welcome to Podnutz Daily for January 7, 2008, episode number 132. I don't know if you guys ever got an error when you start up Windows. Before Windows even starts, actually, you're going to get an error. I think it says something along the lines of, I don't have the exact wording, but I know the exact file it's talking about. Windows is trying to corrupt file, or there's some kind of corruption error message for the file, and the directory is Windows/system32/config/system. You may have gotten that in the past, and that is registry corruption, which kind of sucks because you could technically do a system restore if you're able to get Windows loaded and just do a system restore. It'll bring back an earlier version of your registry. You don't have to do a Windows repair. You don't have to do anything. Just do a system restore because you want to get an earlier version of the registry that's not corrupted, basically. So here's what we did. Here's what I do. First, I run chkdsk because I have had in my experience chkdsk fix this error, and that's running chkdsk/r from the recovery console. So you boot from a Windows to a Windows XP CD, go into the recovery console, run chkdsk /r. It's going to run for 15, 20, 30 minutes. See if that fixes it. You could also, just for good measure, every time after I run chkdsk, I run fixboot, fixboot, and hit enter. That takes about 3 seconds to do that. So every time I run chkdsk, I run fixboot, try booting it. If it's still a problem, then I do a manual system restore, which is where I do essentially what system restore does without using the system restore function. And how do you do that? Well, you have to get into the restore points that are stored in your computer. They're in a folder called System Volume Information. You're not going to be able to see that folder from inside Windows. It's hidden. Even when you open up hidden folders, you still should not be able to see that folder. If you load from a live Knoppix CD, you'll be able to see it. If you load from Ultimate Boot CD or BART PE or any type of pre-installation environment disk, you should be able to see System Volume Information folder. You go into that folder. In that folder, you click on the next folder that says Restore, has a bunch of numbers and letters after it. And after you click in that folder, you're going to see all these folders that begin with the letter R and have a number after them. They are actually all restore points. And you can manually take what's in those folders. Now, there's 5 files that you have to take that I think that these files comprise the registry. I'm not 100% sure, but this is I know how to do it. There's a file called System. There's one called Security. There's one called SAM. There's one called Default. And there's another one I think called Software. You take those 5 files out of one of these restore point folders and you put them in the Windows System32 config system folder and replace the 5 files that are actually there. So we're replacing the corrupted files in the config, they're actually Windows System32 config folder. And you're replacing the file System, SAM, Default, Software, and Security with the files from a restore point. Now, in the restore points, they are named a little bit different. They actually have a prefix in front of them. Just remove the prefix and copy them over and overwrite the existing registry. You can back it up if you want to play it safe. Back up the registry you're about to overwrite. Back up those 5 files somewhere else. You can name them system.back, default.back, sam.back, software.back, security.back, and then take the ones out of the restore point folder, put them in there, and you basically did a system restore manually. Gotta have boot from a external operating system though, like a Knoppix, Ubuntu, BART PE, or Ultimate Boot CD for Windows. And once we run that, we picked a restore point that was back about a week. Everything was fine. So that handled that problem there. Okay, I want to talk about VIOS. Something I don't like about VIOS. I've talked about it before, but it's been pretty long ago. I don't know if they still do it. I haven't bought a new VIO in a while. But actually, I've never bought a new VIO in my life. But I've seen customers' machines that they're brought in. And Sony liked to partition the drive into a C drive and a D drive. This is not a good idea. For somebody who knows a lot about computers, this might be just fine. But for most general users, people don't know about partitions. They don't know what they are. They don't know how to use them. And unfortunately, most Windows programs default to the C drive when you want to store pictures, when you want to store documents, when you store these things. the person just hits save and it gets stored in their My Documents folder. Well, that My Documents folder is on the C drive. So almost nothing defaults to another partition. So most of the time, these people will fill up their existing partition, their C partition, and then they'll have this huge honking D partition, which is meant for their data, which is never being used. And the C partition gets so filled up that they can't operate while they have like 96 gigs of D partition just sitting there. Twice this happened today. One guy came in, brought a computer in, has like 10 gigs left on a C partition. Another customer came in. As we were walking out the door, came up to us and said, I have a VIO. I filled up my first partition. I don't know how to get this. Well, here's what we do. You could run Partition Magic or whatever favorite partitioning program you have. I back up everything out of the D partition, put it in an external place. Then you just remove the D partition completely, and you extend the C partition into the full extent of the drive. So the person has one partition, C. They don't have to worry about saving anything to a D drive. And then you take everything that you saved externally from the D drive and put it back into the C partition in a folder called D drive or whatever you want to call it. That's one of the things Sony's don't do that I don't like that they do, because it's not consumer friendly. Just the majority, I would say 90% of people don't know how to handle an extra partition. Partition Magic is a program I use. There was another free one. I can't remember the name. I used it a couple months ago. I'm probably going to use that for this job. Once I find out what the name of that program is again. One of you guys recommended it to me, actually. When I find out what the name of that, and it wasn't Gparted. It was something partition something. I can't remember. Great program. It looks exactly like Partition Magic, almost in a way that does not look legal. But I think it's okay. I got to make sure. I'll give you the name of that tomorrow when I find out what it is. On a kind of a personal-ish note, I told you I bought an Asus EPC at Best Buy for like $279, and it's a great machine. I love the original Asus or Asus, whatever you want to call it, layout, because I like a big touchpad and I like the placement of the buttons. The problem is the keys are a little too small. But besides that, in this particular model, and I think this is why it's priced so low, it's a solid state hard drive, which is what I wanted. I don't want any moving parts in this thing for two reasons. One, I'm able to bang it around a little bit more and not worry about the hard drive platters getting scratched. And two, I believe it extends the battery life if it doesn't have there's no motor in there spinning a hard drive. It's a 4 gigabyte hard drive, which is small, but the size is not really the problem here. It's just terribly slow. I did a little research online, and I found a company called Runcore. It sells a 16 gig and even higher, 32 and maybe even more, solid state hard drive that just has awesome read and write speed. Just blows away what's an existing EPC. The 16 gigabyte one is $70. I bought that. Been waiting for about a week and a half patiently, looking in the mailbox every day for it. Emailed them twice in the last